I'll be so glad when the sun go down. When the sun go down. I'll be so glad.
I come to Madison County on the Trinity River on what they call the island and started farming for myself. For a number of years, all I had to eat was corn, parched green, and meat that I killed out of the woods. And I eat lots of that raw as we did not have a very easy way of starting a fire. Yes, and fish that I could catch out of the river. Then after I got 3 or 4 children big enough to help me, I cut poles and built me a 4-room house out of logs and split out boards to cover it with.
When we more recently have examined Reconstruction and post-Reconstruction, traditionally we looked at this that had blacks as victims, or they were agents that were operated on. They had little agency, leaving, going west, negotiating work contracts, sharecropping. That was never true.
I want to talk about restoring the knowledge to the younger generations about how we got where we are.
There was a significant group of people that did something very different and that didn't really fit into the story of Jim Crow as it is usually told.
Freedom colonies have largely been ignored up to this point in our history books. Basically, these are places where blacks went after emancipation, formed their own communities, owned their own land, not just a little bit, but hundreds of acres.
Freedom towns were those who decided that for their own well-being and to get control of their lives, to go off and create their own communities.
They were scattered right across the South. It was a whole other thing that African Americans had done after emancipation. The Handbook of Texas, the description of over 200 of what turned out to be black landowner communities that formed in the first decade or so after the Civil War.
About his education, but you know his name. But you know your great-grandpa's name? Albert McCray. The community that I grew up in, which is considered the Belvoir-Port-Dixie community, was full of people that grew up under the auspices the same as I did. You didn't have a fancy way of living or anything like that. You just had a bunch of hard-working, industrious people who went about their business of taking care of their families, and then in times of need, they took care of each other.
The only way you had is a hard way, so you had to take it or you wouldn't have any way at all. That's a hard thing to do. Lifting yourself by your own bootstraps is hard to do when somebody's standing on your feet.
What they need to understand is that all of the people created parts of this country. The freed slaves who had virtually nothing but their own labor and their own minds created communities, created schools, went to college, moved into the cities and became industrial workers and middle-class people and teachers.
What we learned to do as we grew older was to appreciate the effort that these men put forward instead of talking about it, start being about it and doing something about it, and then try to show the people of the community that where they came from and to whose shoulder that they stood on.
The thing to know is that no matter what your circumstances are, you need to step up and take control of your life and do what you see needs to be done.
Whatever you do, do it with dignity. Even if it's taking a cow to the field, you do it with dignity. Boy, raise your head up as you take that cow to the field. Unless you know where you come from, you have no idea about where you're going.